When it comes to measuring numbers inside of your service-based business, most owners that come to me for help fall into one of two categories. They either don't measure much inside of their business, which means that they don't actually have the important data they need that would help them to make decisions and grow their business. The other category of owners are those people who measure every single thing, right? Which means that they are actually stuck in a little bit of data overload and they're not really sure how to use the data that they've got to move forward in their business, right? So when you look at data inside of your business, it is super important, right? Because numbers, firstly, don't lie. And secondly, you cannot actually make decisions effectively if you don't have the right information, right? Now, before you run away because you are thinking that numbers are boring or dumb, and this is something that my accountant should be worrying about, like who has time for this, right? You don't actually need to measure much inside of your business to keep the finger on the pulse of things, right? The good news is there are actually only 4 critical numbers that every service-based business should be measuring. 4 numbers that can fit onto one piece of paper, heck, even a sticky note, right? If you're like completely against spreadsheets. 4 numbers that will tell you in one quick glance how things are going inside of your business. If you find that things are going well, amazing, you can move on with your day, right? But if they aren't, you want these numbers to tell you that things aren't going well and give you an indication of where you need to focus your attention in order to fix the problem and get the business back on track. Now, it is important to note that whatever metrics or numbers, right, you decide to measure inside of your business, they need to be simple, right? Because if it's overly complicated, to get the metrics, to find the metrics, and to track the metrics, right? If it takes a ton of time and resources, you need to actually question whether the effort needed to get the information is worth the information that is providing you, right? So just a little bit of a side note, we do have some really super smart accountants who are listening to this episode, and you may actually have a list of other metrics or a list of important metrics that you would recommend business owners measure, right? But the purpose of this episode is get every business owner in the habit of looking at the numbers, right? Now, we all want to be consistent with something like our health because we know it's important. We understand that it's something that we need to take care of. But if we ask ourselves to go to the gym every single day for 45 minutes every day, right? And especially if we've never gone to the gym before, or we're not in the habit of doing 45-minute sessions daily, chances are that, we're going to give up completely. We're going to fall off of the bus pretty soon, probably in that first week, because it simply feels too much. We're not actually in the habit of doing it. And that is the problem. So when it comes to metrics, we want to start small, just as much as we would like to go to the gym 45-minute sessions at a time. We understand that if we start small, right, if we commit to 5-minute daily walks, right, and building the habit of becoming the person that is fit, then we'll eventually be able to do those 45-minute sessions, right? So the same is true when it comes to the metrics inside of your business. Start small, right? Because many of you are probably not measuring any of the metrics that I'm going to share with you today. And this is not an exercise in overwhelm, right? This is not an exercise in doing more. It is an exercise in looking at what is actually essential inside of your business so that you can start making decisions from that place. So think about the dashboard in your car for a minute, right? In 1-2 second glance, if you look at that dashboard, it's going to tell you whether you're driving too fast, whether the engine is overheating, that your left front tire is losing pressure, right? If you have a fancy car like that. It will also tell you that you need to change the oil or that you're running low on fuel. By looking at the dashboard, it instantly tells you whether everything is okay with your car or if something needs your attention. If you didn't have the information on that dashboard, and you made a plan to drive all the way to Cape Town, you would probably run out of fuel somewhere along the way, likely with no petrol station in sight for days, if you have my luck, right? It would be like driving to your destination blind. Now, in business, we need to know in a similar way how things are actually going inside of the business. And we do that with numbers, with the right metrics. Now, in its simplest form, the numbers should tell you when things are not working, right? Metrics are simple measurements of what's going on inside of your business. You want it to tell you if your business is flowing well, right? And when it isn't, the job of the metric is to tell you there's a problem. That's all it does, right? You should be able to use the data to inform you which changes you need to make in the actions you're taking inside of your business based off of that metric. Now, there are 4 activities that are always happening in any service-based business that you should be measuring and tracking. Now, what those 4 numbers are exactly for your specific business will depend on how you actually measure success for each of these 4 categories. And if you're inside of my program, The Effortless CEO, then this is something I actually help you to personally set up. Now, I do suggest that you have at least 1 metric for each activity, right? This is not a game of death by numbers. It is important to keep it simple, but you may actually have more than 1 number that would make sense for you in each of these activities. But for this exercise, we want to measure at least 1, right? So we want to keep it simple in the beginning and gradually build from there. Okay, so the 4 numbers that you're going to look at, it's important to remember that a metric could be a number, right? That's typically how we think about it, but it doesn't always have to be. A metric can also be a binary, simple yes or no, right? Did this thing happen? Yes or no. So just keep that in mind as we go through this. Okay, so let's dive into the 4 activities that you want to measure and track inside of your business. The first activity is visibility. The second one is conversion or sales. The third one is delivery. And the last one, number 4, is collect for cash. So we're going to dive into each of these activities, and I'm also going to share some examples of metrics that you could measure for each of them. But I want you to remember that you need to ask yourself what metrics will make sense for your business. So there is actually a guiding question that you can answer for yourself as you go through this exercise. Okay. And the guiding question is this: how do we measure progress or the lack thereof in this area of the business? Okay. How do we measure progress or the lack thereof in this area of the business? Okay, so let's dive into the first activity, which was attraction or visibility. Now, you as a business have to attract people, potential clients, into your business, right? They need to know that you exist. You need to be visible to them, right? So think about your business. How do you currently attract clients into your world? Do you run Facebook ads? Do you go to networking events? Do you have referral partners or rely on word of mouth marketing, right? So think about how you attract people into your world. And let's use the example of if you're running Facebook ads, right? And you are considering the metrics that you want to measure over there. Now, there are a bazillion metrics that you could be measuring. It depends on what the campaigns are that you're running, right? But you could be measuring something like if you have a lead generation campaign running on Facebook, you could be measuring the number of email addresses or potential leads that you are adding to your database on a weekly basis. If you go to networking events as a way to attract and meet new potential clients, you could be measuring how many real connections you are actually making at these events per month, right? So consider what needs to happen in order for you to be effective at attracting or being visible to your ideal clients, right? How are you currently doing that? And how would you measure the effectiveness of those actions? Okay. The second activity is conversion or sales. And this is probably very obvious, right? But we need to take potential customers and we need to turn them into paying clients. And this is conversion or sales. Now, if your business is not turning potential clients into actual paying clients, then you're not really in business, or you won't be in business for long, right? So a couple of examples of metrics that you could be measuring here are things like the number of clients that say yes on a consultation if you have consultation calls, the number of proposals that get accepted if you send out proposals. Again, I want you to think about the actions that you take to get sales inside of your business currently. How would you measure those actions' effectiveness? The third bucket, or the third activity, is delivery. Now, once you have a client, once they've signed up, once they've decided to be a paying client, you now need to deliver on what you promised. You want to consider the milestones or the phases your clients are going through in the process of delivery. And you want to measure and track the effectiveness of that process. At the end of the day, we want to deliver exceptional service to our best clients, because when we do, they will keep coming back and they will also tell their friends, right? So when you consider the metrics you are going to track in this category, consider how you would measure whether you are actually delivering at the standard that you want to deliver at for your specific business. Now, here are a couple of example metrics. You could be tracking delivery time or project completion. You could also measure feedback from clients, like client satisfaction scores. Consider how you would know whether your process is working, and that would tell you that delivery is happening to the standard that you want it to happen to. The last action or activity is the collect or cash activity. And this is the category of actions related to getting paid and then managing the money inside of your business. Now, the collect and delivery buckets are typically the two buckets where you're most likely going to be measuring more than just one metric, and that's perfectly fine, right? Again, don't overwhelm yourself. I always suggest, especially when it comes to the cash or collect bucket, speak to your accountant and ask them for guidance here. If you're unsure what to measure or where to find the information, right, they will be able to help you. Some of the metrics that you could be looking at is things like your client retention rate. In other words, the percentage of clients who actually come back to purchase from you again. That might be something that is important to you. You can also measure things like how long it takes for your clients to pay outstanding invoices, and work on ways to reduce that time so that you can collect cash faster, right? You can also measure revenue and profit. Again, this category is super important, and one of the biggest categories that I see most business owners neglect entirely. They almost have like this head in the sand approach when it comes to the money numbers inside of their business. But at the end of the day, cash flow is everything inside of a small business, inside of any business. But you have to know what is going on with your money. You have to know whether you actually have enough cash in your business for the next couple of months, right? So the metrics inside your business are critical to running your business like a CEO. You cannot make decisions effectively without the right information. Now, I get that this feels like a lot of work, and it's hard to sometimes lift your head up from the day-to-day stuff that is happening inside of your business that's probably fighting for your attention. But if you ignore your numbers, your business is ultimately going to suffer, and it's going to be really hard to make decisions confidently. So I have created a very simple CEO dashboard that you can grab in the show notes of this episode. And if you're watching this video on Facebook or YouTube, head over to my website, go to the podcast tab and find episode 143. The link will be in the show notes there for you. And if you need help implementing this strategy, then let's hop on a call. Let's talk about how the Effortless CEO can actually help you to run your business more effectively so that you can actually enjoy more of your life. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. I will chat to you again next week.